Can you say hi, Piper? Can you say hi? Everybody on the YouTube wants to say hi to you. They all want you. They do. They do. I said, what do you people want? And they said, we want more Piper. That's what they said. So there she is. What is going on, everybody? How are you all doing out there? I hope this video is finding you well. Welcome or welcome back to Get Right On In. My name is Andrew, for those of you who do not know. That is my dog Piper, who is here now by popular request. The other day I had posted a video asking about the type of content you all would like to see on my channel, and there was a resounding response for more Piper. So in honor of that, today I thought I would go over some of my favorite fantasy animals slash pets. So now with that out of the way, without further ado, let's get right on in. Okay, so I have to kick this off with Oi the Billy Bumbler from the Dark Tower series. I freaking love Oi so much. Oi doesn't come around until the third book of the series, but I think that what he adds to the group is just phenomenal. He is the cutest little thing. He's kind of like this mixture of like a raccoon and a dog, and he reminds me a lot of what it might have been like if I had had Piper as a puppy, because he's just got that kind of young and fun energy, and he added so much to that series for me. And there are other reasons I think that I could talk about why I loved him so much, but I fear that it would be spoilers, and especially because I have some active viewers right now who are currently reading the Dark Tower series for the first time, and I would never want to spoil that for anybody. So I am just gonna leave all of that at that and say that Oi the Billy Bumbler, you are the cutest. Next up is going to be Fawkes the Phoenix from the Harry Potter series, because I mean, hello, Fawkes is such a badass, and he is so loyal to Dumbledore, which, I mean, because I have a German Shepherd, that is something that I have experienced as far as having a pet, because German Shepherds are pretty known for being very loyal to their people. I'm pretty sure, even though Piper is not really super camera happy, but if there was ever a situation like something in the Chamber of Secrets, I am sure she would go and deliver the sorting hat and the sword of Godric Gryffindor to whoever was trying to save me. So Fawkes the Phoenix, I love you so much, and I've loved you since before I even had my own pet, and if I could ever have a phoenix as a pet in the real life, I would totally take that opportunity. Next up is going to be Syl from the Stormlight Archive, because that little spren that reminds me of Tinkerbell is so much fun to read, but I think those of you who know me well enough to know that I would just love to be zipping around Kaladin's little shoulders and getting into his brain and spending all that time with him that she spends with him. So Syl, I put on here mostly just because I want to be her in some ways, I guess, but she is definitely so fun to read in the Stormlight Archives, and I love the idea of the spren in general, especially because, like I said, that she does remind me a little bit of that Tinkerbell kind of with Peter Pan thing with her relationship with Kaladin, and I really like that a lot. So Syl, if you ever get bored on Kaladin's shoulder, then you know who to call, because there's a few people out here that I would fight just to have your position. Next up is not as much of a pet or an animal as it is, I guess, kind of a creature, but Treebeard from the Lord of the Rings series. Just because, I mean, first of all, for those of you who know me and you know that I am 6.5 feet tall, there have been many a times in my life where I have been called a tree, and I actually always really related to Treebeard and the Ents, because I do consider myself to be something of a gentle giant. However, y'all saw what happened at Isengard, okay? So if anyone comes at my friends, or at my family, or at my dog, or gets all crazy on me, like, these branches will just come out all crazy up on you, okay? And I will flood you, I will burn you, I will do all of the things that we saw the Ents do in the Lord of the Rings. But in the meantime, I promise I am just a nice, lovely, beautiful, gentle giant, just like Treebeard, holding on Merry and Pippin until he gets pissed off. Next up is going to be the wonderful, cute, lovely, lovely little Mr. Tumnus from the Chronicles of Narnia, specifically from The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, which is kind of like the only Narnia book that anybody even really knows, I feel. He's not really a pet either. I mean, he is a fawn, but he is not the pet to Lucy, but I just really appreciate his character and what he does for the Pevensies and how he stands up for what he believes in, even when it can get him into a little bit of trouble the way that it does in The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. But if I ever mysteriously found an entire world on the other side of my wardrobe, Mr. Tumnus would definitely be the first person that I would want to run into at the first lamppost that I saw, because he just helped them out so much. And he, again, like I said, he stood up for what he believed in, even though he was in a predicament that he felt wasn't really good for him. I mean, he had the choice of turning them in or not, and he didn't. So I really loved that character a lot, especially James McAvoy's depiction of him in the movie. But Mr. Tumnus, if I ever find another world, I really do hope that you are the first person that I find on the other side. Next up, and okay, it's fine, don't judge me, because I know that I talk about this character and this book all the time, but I don't care, especially for this video. I couldn't leave him out. But Falkor, the luck dragon from the Never-Ending Story. And I swear, because I talk about this so much and I have my book to movie comparison on this channel and I love that book so much, the Falkor in the book is very similar to the Falkor in the movie, but Falkor in general is just, I mean, he's a luck dragon. He brings luck everywhere he goes, and I would love to hop on his scaly little back, scratch him behind the ears, and fly around the world looking for whatever I want to find. Even if I'm not on some crazy adventure journey like Atreyu and Bastian were in that book, I just want to fly around with him because I think that would be freaking awesome. There's a plane literally flying by my window right now, and I just think about what if I was on Falkor's back, just like riding along with this plane as it's coming down. I just think that would be so much fun. I would love that. And especially younger me, when I did have some bullies of my own, because believe it or not, I have been very heavily bullied my entire life. I would have loved to have Falkor to fly at my bullies the way that he did with Bastian at the end of the movie. So Falkor, just please come and find me. Next up is not as much of a singular character as it is an entire race of beings, but the Hork-Bajir from the Animorphs series. I love Animorphs. I have talked about it a couple of times on this channel. When I was just packing up everything in Monterey and moving, I finally got all of my Animorphs books together just to see which ones I needed, and honestly, out of the 54 I think there are, I have 6 that I need, and that was so weird to me. I don't know how I'm missing the first book, which just kind of indicates to me that I let someone borrow it and they never give it back to me, which is why I can't let people borrow books anymore, especially when they're number 1. But I needed like 1, 19, 38, and then 49 to the end, and I was like, wow, that's really awesome. But apart from all of that, I always really loved the Hork-Bajir in that series, just because they were the big scary creatures who by default in their nature were very much more, I mean, like the Ents. They were very calm and peaceful and loving creatures that just so happened to get taken over by those nasty little yerks that climbed into their ear and took over their bodies and then came down to earth to try to do the same thing for us humans. Oh my gosh, I love that series so much. I haven't read it in so long, but it is one of my favorites from childhood, and I have always really loved those Hork-Bajir, their talons, everything about them. If I had the power to turn into animals the way that the main characters in that series did, I would totally get some Hork-Bajir DNA up in my body, and I would turn into a Hork-Bajir anytime I wanted. Just especially if I felt like I was in an uncomfortable situation, because even though they are so kind by default, they are also very scary. So as if my massive height wasn't scary enough, I would just want to add the scales and the talons and all the things so that if anyone tried to mess with me, I could just get Treebeard on their asses and I'd just go crazy. I think maybe the moral of all this story is just not to make me angry. I do swear I'm a gentle giant. I know I'm sounding so crazy in this video. I would love to find all of the books that I don't have and just do a massive read of this whole entire series, especially because, like I said, I found most of the books when I was packing up in Monterey. But if I do that, I will be definitely checking in about that on this channel. Next up, he's not really a pet, but he's also not really a creature or an animal, but he is a kinder, which is similar to like a halfling or a hobbit. But his name is Tasselhoff Burrfoot from the Dragonlance series. As of right now, I have only read Dragons of Autumn Twilight, which is the first book in that series. I would love to be able to continue on with that series and read all of them, but I just didn't have the access to it. Although now I have my little San Diego library card that gets me access to all 38 public libraries around here, which is insane. Like, I've never been around that many libraries in my life. So maybe they will have the complete series for me to get into, but even though it has been a few years since I have read Dragons of Autumn Twilight, and even though I would definitely have to reread that book before I went on with the rest of the series, Tass just made such an impression on me and I loved him so much. So he would be the main reason I would want to continue on with that series. So even though he isn't a pet or an animal or a creature or anything like that, I still just wanted to include him in this. And last up, even though this is also a little bit cheating because he's not from a book, but Ludo from the movie Labyrinth. I just want to give that big beast a hug and just bring him in tight, and I just want to, because I think he would be a really fun pet to have around, especially if I had Ludo and Falcor like in my arsenal. Oh my gosh, that would be the coolest thing ever. Anything that Jen Henson did, honestly, was just so good, especially back in the 80s, and there's so many times when I have thought about what movies might have been like if he had lived longer, especially if he was still alive like in this day and age, and given the technology that we have, except for I think that he still would have been super innovative with how he made his films, because even when that technology was kind of available for him in the 80s, I think that he was just so ingenious with how he made his creatures and his Muppets and everything that went into all of the work that he did. But Ludo from Labyrinth, I couldn't keep you out of my favorite animal pet creatures from fantasy, even though you're not in a book. And even though I still to this day think that Labyrinth should also be a book, so maybe I'll write it. Maybe. But Ludo, I go back to that movie all the time, and I see you all the time, and I love you every time. So maybe one day I can just manifest you into my reality and give you the hug that I'd love to give you. And there we are, everybody. A small little list of some of my favorite little pets and creatures and animals from various different fantasy series. What are some of your favorite pets or creatures or animals or anything from some of your favorite fantasy series? Books, movies, TV, lay it all on me down there in the comments. And while you are down there, if you liked this video, I would love it if you considered giving it a little thumbs up button, as well as potentially pressing on that little subscribe button so you can join me on Tuesdays and Thursdays and sometimes on Sundays for bookish and writerly and entertainment-y-esque content just like this. In the meantime, I hope you all have a day just as beautiful as you, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye!